everyone, this is Adam Matas of Locked On Nuggets here to preview the 2018-19 Denver Nuggets season and what should be a very fascinating season for a very, very interesting team. The last two seasons, Denver has fallen just one game shy of the playoffs. Last year falling in what was effectively a play-in game, game 82 of the season at Minnesota, a game that went to overtime but saw Minnesota win and Denver fall into the lottery. In a lot of ways, that game and that season defines the motivation for this year. It's playoffs or bust for the Denver Nuggets, who are looking to get over the hump. It's also a storyline about the reintegration of Paul Millsap. Millsap was a huge free agent acquisition for the Nuggets last summer, but injured his left wrist in the first 18 games of the season and was forced to miss a majority of the year. He did return in late February, but was unable to dribble or rebound with his left hand and was very limited in what he could do. Since Denver has such a small sample size, there's a lot of questions around how he'll fit with Nikola Jokic on the offensive end. They're both very unique front court players who like to pass, like to shoot, like to make plays from the post. So can those two players mesh right off of the bat will be a big question. And then the addition of Isaiah Thomas as the backup point guard. Emmanuel Mudiay was the backup point guard to start the season last year, and he was a very inexperienced, turnover-prone, and inefficient player from the point guard position for Denver, and as a result, the bench really struggled. The starting unit for the Nuggets was one of the 10 best starting 5 units in all of the NBA, but the bench was an enormous net negative. If Isaiah Thomas can come in and play 20 minutes per game at a high level and really captain that second unit, then I think Denver has quite a good upside. And then lastly, they added Michael Porter Jr. at the draft, a surprise pick. He fell on draft night unexpectedly as rumor came out about him needing a second back surgery, which he ended up getting this summer. Denver took a chance on him, and they look at him more as a long-term play. While he has not been ruled out for the season, I think it's very unlikely that he will step on the court anytime this year, instead electing to work on his body, his rehab, and spending this year as the sort of red shirt before getting the restart next year. In order for Denver to make a big leap this year, the defense needs to jump into the top 20 in terms of defensive efficiency. The team finished the season ranked 26th in defensive rating last year and was really worse than that over the back half. After Paul Millsap got hurt, they were one of the 3 worst defenses for that long 44-game stretch. They need to improve and get up into the top half or top 20 in order for them to really reach their potential. The other thing that needs to happen is Nikola Jokic needs to pick up where he left off. Over the last 36 games of the season last year, Nikola Jokic averaged 21 points, 11 rebounds, and 7.5 assists. 21, 11, and 7.5. And he also shot 44% from the three-point line. Actually, I'm sorry, 46% from the three-point line on 4 attempts per game. He was absolutely on fire and seemed to really understand and for the first time embrace his aggressiveness and sort of his role on the team as the fulcrum and focal point of the offense. If he picks up right where he left off, then I think not only will he be an all-star, but he'll help lead this team to 48, 50, maybe even more wins. Jamal Murray is also a player that's in line for a leap. He's a guy that was voted, received the most votes in the NBA.com GM survey. Surveyed all the general managers in the league of which player will make the biggest leap, and Jamal Murray was the number 1 vote getter. He's a guy that over the back half of the season was a 40% three-point shooter on nearly 6 attempts per game. Really ran the pick and roll well in the back half of the year and just has started to make a lot of strides. If he can make another leap this year and be one of the team's 3 or 4 best players, then I think Denver's offense is going to be right up there with the best of them in the NBA. Worst case scenario is that the Denver Nuggets do not improve on the defensive end. Paul Millsap, I think, is a huge addition, and when he was healthy, they were very, very good. But can he, at a year older and coming back from this injury, can he continue to sort of put out so many fires on the defensive end? Or can the young core of Jamal Murray, Gary Harris, Nikola Jokic, and Trey Lyles collectively all improve on the defensive end individually and elevate the team to not being a real liability on that end? There's also the chance that Nikola Jokic and Paul Millsap don't mesh well. We just have only seen 18 games of those two guys fully healthy, so will there be a learning curve for them once again? And then, of course, Isaiah Thomas, who was the big acquisition, there's a chance he will not be healthy for the start of the year, and that could extend weeks and even months into the season. The longer he is out, the more that second unit is in doubt. I think the 2 people I look at to really changed the narrative about them this year. Michael Malone, who did not receive a contract extension from the Nuggets this summer. He is entering the final year of his deal. And he's a guy that's really well liked by a majority of the locker room. Not just liked, but really liked and really supported. And he's a guy that has, when he arrived, Denver won 30 games, improved to 33, then 40, and then 46. So the team is on a very steady upward trajectory, but just out of bad luck, 2 years in a row, they've been on the outside of the playoffs by one game looking in. If he can get the team into the playoffs, I believe he will get a nice contract extension and be the coach of the future. If not, then he probably will be let go and the team will go another direction. The other player is Will Barton, a player who came off of the bench for half of the season last year, started half of the season, was asked to be a point guard, a shooting guard, and a small forward, sometimes all in the same game. He is now comfortably, with a 4-year, $54 million contract extension, going to be one of the starting 5 players at the small forward position for Denver, and he will be a guy who I think will have a more consistent role this year and who will fit in very, very nicely in Denver's high-powered offense as sort of a 4th or 5th option. Last year, he was a bit of a up-and-down player, but I think he'll get a lot more consistency playing with the starting unit. Players whose career trajectory is most impacted by this season, I think Trey Lyles is the first guy you'd look at. Entering his 4th season, didn't really get a great shot in Utah. Last year, there were months where he played really a lot of minutes when Paul Millsap was hurt. When Millsap was not hurt, he didn't play as much. Denver's going to try to play him a little bit at small forward just to find more minutes for him, but he's a guy that entered camp in the best shape of his life for real, not just a saying. Looked great in the preseason, was one of the storylines out of training camp, and if he could sort of be that leading scorer off the bench or one of the big impact pieces as a stretch 4, then I think his career really goes to a different level. And then the other one is Paul Millsap. The Nuggets have a team option on his contract next year following this season, and if he plays really well and meshes with Nikola Jokic, I think he could finish his career in Denver and sort of stay with this team through every step of their process. If he doesn't fit, then Denver may decline that option and look to move on from him. So I think his career can go a couple different directions. There are the two rookies of note, Jared Vanderbilt out of Kentucky and Michael Porter Jr., who, of course, we talked about earlier. But I don't know that either one of those players will have a major impact. Both I think I'm very high on, and I think they have a lot of upside. But because of some injuries, both of them sustained in college, I think they're going to be more G League players or just sitting out this entire year. And then my best guess on how this season ends, I think Denver's a 48-win team. They have an upside to be a little bit more than that, but I think given how young they are, there's still some lessons for them to learn. I think they'll be a dangerous team come April, but overall I think they finish somewhere in the 6, 7, or 8 seed and get 48 wins. Thanks so much for listening, guys. You can check everything out you need to know about the Denver Nuggets on Locked On Nuggets.